Well, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, in its breakdown of the third phase of eased lockdown, announced alongside schools reopening that parks, gyms and cinemas should prepare to reopen, but at 50% capacity. Now, that's 1 week ago. Joining us in the studio here in Lagos is Mr. Patrick Lee. He is the chairman, Cinema Exhibitors Association of Nigeria, CN. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
All right, so what losses did cinema operators experience for the period of the lockdown?
We've lost about ₦1 billion every month from lockdown. And as you can see, we were locked down in March. And as at September, almost every cinema in the Federation is open, with the exception of Lagos and Port Harcourt. But this has only just happened in the last week. So for losses, we've lost about 8 billion. In terms of jobs, we had about 5,000 people were laid off, and we're starting to recruit them back, bring them back into the cinema business. In terms of equipment, much of our equipment was lying idle for as much as that 6-7 month period. And it's taken quite a lot of money which we don't have, to try and bring that equipment back, as well as having to maintain the cinemas during the period of the lockdown. So it's been terrible. I know
at a point it seemed there was a protest, maybe virtual protest of some sort, when things were easing up and your members were unhappy with.
Yes, we were. When the federal government announced in August that airlines were reopening and they were opening up quite a lot of the economy, parks, for example, were allowed to open, we argued that in similarity to the airlines, we also have people who would come to some in our enclosed spaces, and we had already put forward a lot of protocols that we would ensure that those customers were actually safe. So in our argument, we felt that if airlines could be allowed to open, parks could be allowed to open, then cinemas should be considered for opening. But of course, that didn't happen in August. And so what we did was to try and ramp up the pressure on the federal government. We spoke to a member of the House of Representatives, who's our patron, Mr. Akin Alabi. We spoke to a number of celebrities who are very important to us in terms of the movies that we show. And they helped us put pressure on the federal government to try and ensure that we could open safely for our customers. And that was successful. The federal government eventually listened to us, and the Honorable Minister Lai Mohammed and the Census Board Chairman came together and obviously recommended that cinemas should open.
All right, so now that it has, we're looking at 50% capacity and, of course, the protocols. Whose responsibility is that to ensure COVID-19 protocols are followed?
Well, in Lagos, for example, it's the Lagos State Safety Commission, and we're talking to Mr. Lanre Majola, who's the MD of the Lagos State Safety Commission, and we've ensured that we get safety compliance certificates for all the cinemas that are in Lagos. In Edo State, we're also talking to the Edo State government, the Delta State government. So to answer your question, it's actually the responsibility of the state governments, but they are all following NCDC guidelines. And we as cinemas have already put those NCDC guidelines in place. We will have 50%, we will have social distancing, we will have halls that are cleaned to the extent whereby we will not stage shows without having enough time to clean the halls. We will sanitize those halls. We will ensure that everyone wears face masks when they come into the cinema. And of course, when people go to the cinema, generally they face forward. They don't talk to people beside them. And the only reason why they take their face masks off is to have something to eat or drink. So we feel that cinemas are a safe environment for our customers. And we will ensure that once the customers come back to the cinemas, they feel safe, they are safe, and we'll make sure that there are no incidents. In fact, if you look at it around the world, there are over 60 countries that have opened cinemas. And currently, no cases of COVID-19 have been linked to the opening of the cinemas. So to some extent, cinemas have gone through a lot to make sure that they are actually safe. And we belong to a lot of these global cinema federations that have safety as a major concern for people coming back to watch their movies.
Finally, what do you make of the future of cinemas as we battle to, sort out COVID-19 pending a vaccination?
Well, as you know, we had a meeting with the governor of Lagos State recently. And part of that meeting, what we discussed was the issue of the role cinema plays in the culture, the social aspects of any society. And if you take Lagos as an example, Lagos provides a backdrop for over 140 movies that are exhibited in the cinemas in a year. So we told the governor that, look, your state is very important to it in terms of culture, in terms of history, in terms of what we exhibit on the screens, and in terms of expansion of the industry. So to answer your question, it's very important for us that we ensure that cinemas continue to remain as an avenue for people to enjoy themselves. We don't see cinemas as being substituted by the online PVOD platforms. We see it as complementary. So we exist side by side. People still want to see their big blockbuster Nollywood, Hollywood movies on the big screen. And we have quite a lot of them waiting for our customers to come back and enjoy them.
All right. We'd like to thank you for coming to talk about this. Thank you, Mr. Patrick Lee, Chairman, Cinema Exhibitors Association of Nigeria. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure, and we hope to see you at the cinemas as well soon.
All right. Hopefully, as soon as I think it is safe to do so.